Alise is co-founder at Infogram. And with that, she's basically a dinosaur in Latvian startup community. She knew that, she got to know that yesterday.
Yeah, and
yes, so give her a big applause. Then Joanna, she is from startup Sesame, but what you don't know about her is that she's basically like a fairy godmother of startup community because she is standing for women in tech, refugees in tech, and she's a lead singer in a band. So did you know that? And then Robin, he's basically like the best or the most handsome Belgian tech journalist currently in Riga today on the stage wearing black. So this is our panel. Give them a big applause. And we're going to handle work-life separation as a topic. And the first question is there that is such a thing like work-life separation like a thing at all? And if it is a thing, like a separation, are you for separating work and life or like more like joining them? Who wants to start?
Yes, there is a thing like work-life balance. The problem with that is that every question you're going to ask about this panel is going to start with, well, it depends. The answer is going to start with, it depends. Because at the end of the day, if you look at the term work-life balance, I think everyone has his own definition, his own opinion what work entails, what life is, and what balance means. It's different for everyone. So it's sort of a really difficult thing to talk about because everyone kind of defines work-life balance in a different way. So it is there, but it's different for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that ultimately it's all about feeling good with what you do. So if you think that it's better to separate, then separate. And if you think that's what you need, I think that it's what you should do. But I think that we're also in an era where lots of us have several different projects. And also with technology, we are able to work on these different projects from wherever we decide to. And in certain cases, trying to separate things can be more stressful than not. So I think that for me anyway, I think that it's quite difficult to try and put limits, like clear-cut limits. And I've tried to find and try to balance out in different ways, and I think that it changes according to the number of events or projects that I'm on, and maybe it's going to be a very long, intense moment, and then the way that I found to go about this would be to fix a time just after this intense series of projects to really step back. But it's not necessarily a very regular thing and a discipline that I try and go by.
Alise?
Yeah, for me, I'm struggling to answer this question because what is life and balance? What is the definition for me? For me, everything I do while I'm alive is life, so work is part of it. So I don't separate it. And actually have many attempts to join these things, what we call so there's a spectrum of things you should never do, like read emails while you have dinners with your family. That's no combination of work and life. But then I, for example, have tried to organize my family's vacation around business trips. So it's like combining those both, or seeing children's room in a startup conference, so I can take my kids to the conference, so they see what mommy does, what daddy does, and so they do kind of the same thing. So I'm all for a combination of it because it's part of life. I cannot separate it because that's me. Whatever happens with me through the work day, it reflects of who I am at home, and vice versa.
I'm personally very much for the separation track, but this never works out. Okay, but I think the main issue about work-life separation or it's not even the question, can you separate these two things? It's more rather than, can you stay healthy? And I think that one of the worst things I have happened to myself, and this has already happened like 4 times, I think, is burning out. Have you ever burned out yourself or seen your friends burning out? What were the symptoms? What were the results? Can you disclose that?
I've never had a burnout, but I've spent enough time with entrepreneurs to see a lot of people crash and burn. And by the way, burnout can have different types of manifestations, let's call it. There's depression, there's other mental health issues, there's actual burnout, which isn't necessarily tied to entrepreneurship or startups, but it's a kind of career path that often leads to that, those problems. But I've seen it around me, and I think it's one of the most horrible things that can happen to someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really, really nasty as an illness.
Yeah, I was quite close to burnout a couple of times, and thanks to some very strong advice and help, from friends or family around me saying, you should really stop, slow down. I think that kind of avoided that going past the limit and actually burning out, because once you pass that limit, then it takes much more time to get back on track. And I know that I was really quite sometimes very annoyed against the people that told me that, because I had the impression of being in control. And what I've learned from those moments is that I think that we pressure ourselves a lot, and if we have high expectations for oneself, I think it's good to try as much as possible to learn what our limits are, because at the end of the day, it's not going to change everything if you work non-stop. It's good to, I think, try and limit the pressure by being able to focus more and not necessarily work yourself to being too tired to actually really be efficient. So.
Yeah, I was thinking about the burnouts in my life, and I was thinking about the early days of Infogram, and because we worked a lot at those times, especially when we were part of accelerator program, when you work 24 hours. But I didn't feel that I'm burning out then, because I wasn't trying to balance work and life. It was just all work, you don't feel it. But now when
no life part.
It was that's the life, and you're just in it, and you don't balance anything. But now when I have a family and a child, and these balancing things come more and more as a topic. So the recent burnout, I think it was 2 years ago, when I was trying to finish my master's studies, so I was writing a thesis. I committed to one freelance project. I was running Riga Tech Girls events, and I had 2-month-old infant at home. And it all happened at the same time, and the good question is, why did I think it will work out in the first place? Well, I thought you just feed kid and he sleeps for 3 hours, so I have plenty of time. Went to sleep when you had the sleepless nights, and when do you write masters? It was crazy. So it went like that for 2 months, and my family is a really good indicator of saying, hey, stop. You don't eat, you look like shit. Just maybe put on hold some things. So Riga Tech Girls, I put that on hold. I managed to finish the graduate Tallinn University, and I have my master's. And then I had all those things, but not just at the same time. So 2 months was my burnout. Okay. So.
But you mentioned balancing. What do you do to balance things, or how can you do some kind of top tricks, or what do you do in life, or what should one try to do to keep this kind of balance or keep yourself healthy?
So for me, I think balance is not a thing. It's not a permanent thing you can reach, or it's not a destination. It's a journey. It's all the attempts of balancing, all your attempts that you communicate to your family, that you're aware that you have all these things: health, family, work, and all attempts of getting them closer and balanced is good. So for me, not fooling myself that more working hours equals better quality or more stuff that more things that I accomplish. So working hours is something that I'm trying to limit. And then I'm practicing outsourcing everything I can do, like ordering groceries online and then just pick them up instead of going to the shop and spending an hour there. Like really small things that I can outsource, that helps. Nothing that comes up, maybe you'll come up with something else.
I stopped reading all the articles on tips.
You stopped reading articles and tips. So self-help books like, fuck these.
There's so many of these articles, and they can be interesting. But for me, at the end of the day, I had the impression that it was like more pressure, because I always had the impression that I was missing like half of the tips, like doing everything wrong, and that I would never be able to find balance. And today, I just, I'm at peace, I think, with certain things that I don't do. Like at the moment, I don't do any sports, and that's it. And I hurt my foot, and so I stopped doing sports, and I never, started again for a year. And maybe I'll do that again, but I think it's more stress and more feeling bad, to say, oh my God, I'm not doing what I should to feel good and to balance my life. Mm-hmm. So I think it's like, being a bit kind to oneself also that plays a role for me.
Forgiving. Yeah,
forgiving and not feeling guilty, because that guilt feeling is like, you get the impression that if you don't get up at 6 in the morning, do 1 hour sport, do like full day work, and be with your kids, and et cetera, or if you miss a healthy meal, that everything's gone wrong. But that's not the case. I don't know anyone to who that doesn't happen, and so I think it's being a bit easier on oneself also that can help.
I think what Joanna said in the beginning was really true. If you put the pressure on yourself, it doesn't really matter how many hours you're working or what kind of job you're doing and how well you balance your time, your quality time with your kids and your job or your company. What matters is how you feel and how much pressure you put on yourself. I work a lot of hours, but I'm very fortunate to do what I do, and I do something that I love because I started the company that I wanted to build, to have the lifestyle that I want. But I also know that I'm very lucky in that sense because I had every opportunity to do so. Not everyone has those opportunities, obviously. So you have to also look at personal situations, the place that you're born, the family that you're born in, and the chances that you get along the way is going to determine a lot of your career and your lifestyle and your family life. So who am I to judge someone who works 9 to 5? And who am I to judge someone who decides to work 18 hours a day? As long as they're happy with themselves and they consider themselves healthy and they balance this out by, I don't know, meditation, sports, any other video games? I don't know. You choose your own type of balance to whatever you decide to do career-wise.
I've noticed that maybe the best indicator would be the family, as you mentioned, because you see how things start to happen. They are like a mirror in a way. And the second thing is that to be somehow connected to yourself, like to understand how you feel. The pressure thing is that should I be making myself feeling, like me making myself feeling bad, that why? But I have like 2 tricks which worked for me personally, was that I started at some point like very heavily leaving my laptop at the workplace after 6 o'clock. I went home, I just focused on hobbies, whatever, and then at some point, after 10 years not doing sports, I started to do sports because at some point when I realized that I feel weak, that after climbing 3 flights of stairs, I'm like completely out of breath. I thought that this never happened to me before. So then I started to do sports as well, just to keep yourself somehow feeling stronger so you feel yourself better. I think this is, being in touch with yourself somehow, understanding what's going on.
Yeah, and what you're saying about your computer, I think, is something that's quite important, because I think that tech and technology is given a lot of freedom, because you can basically work or continue your passions or wherever really, but at the same time, what you do leaving at work or leaving the phone outside of the bedroom, we hear that a lot. It sounds it sounds a bit like cliche, but I think it does make a big difference. So.
This is like a very small detail of separation, and it somehow creates clear boundaries.
I was thinking about like knowing yourself and feeling yourself and kind of indicating the red flags you might run into. It takes time to learn about yourself. Yeah. So it's okay to burn out. It's okay to have ups and downs. We learn about ourselves a lot through these times. So yeah, don't put pressure on and just embrace the burnouts too, because that's how you learn to feel yourself. And the fun fact that you analyze yourself in retrospective. So you cannot indicate that at the right moment. So maybe when you decide to leave computer home, you have plenty of bad experiences when you came up with this idea. So yeah, just live through the burnouts too.
I mean, literally 2 hours ago, you know how it goes at these conferences. You run into people that you haven't seen in a while, and you ask, so how are you? And the answer was, well, I haven't been well. Like in the last 5-6 months, I went back to my home country and spent time with family instead of working because I burned out. I'm not going to say who it was, but it was someone who's here at the conference. And the fact that he's talking about this and sharing this with me, and probably would share it on stage if you would ask him, that's already progress. Because if you don't talk about, within the entrepreneurial community, about mental health issues, depression, burnout, then it's an even bigger problem, because then it's like pretending that it doesn't exist, or that you can't treat it, or that you can't share experiences and best practices and tips. You don't necessarily have to read articles on it. You can also talk to each other, right? So I think it's important that it comes up. I try to advocate whenever a tech conference happens to somehow, at some point, put mental health on the agenda, because I
like
don't
this
think
one.
I didn't give advice with this one. I don't know if it was on the program actually, but it should be at every tech conference, in my opinion, because it's such a huge part of startups, mental health.
Yeah. Hey, let's get some questions from the audience as well. Does anybody want to ask us anything? We're not into the question time yet, but maybe somebody wants to know something or wants to share themselves. Does anybody have a really bad look? Where is the catch box? The blue catch box. Does anybody see that? Come on. Ah, yes, there it is. Just stand up, try to what? Yeah. It's a Latvian startup doing these catch boxes.
It's meant for this, to throw
it's meant for this.
Yeah, hello. So my question is about, when you talk about work and life, you have to understand what work is for you. So, can you give any advice on how you can distinguish? Do you want to be a well-trained monkey, or do you want to be a good employee, and how do you fit in work in your life?
So, as I said in the beginning, I find it very dangerous to give any type of advice to anyone about this, because it's such a personal thing. I find that very difficult. You can kind of share best practices, what you've seen around you, but really giving anyone advice about how you should balance your work and life, I don't know your history, I don't know your background, I don't know your personality, I don't know your surroundings, so it's very, very difficult, it's very dangerous.
For me, I think that it depends, but work can be something that you consider very different to your passion, and it could be a means to earn a living, and that's it. And being professional will be doing what you're told and doing it well, and that's going to be the way that you see work. But if it's something that you're passionate about, then something that you feel like doing every day, getting up for. And I think that the lines are blurred completely from the beginning. It's something that you're not going to, even perceive as work. I think that in certain cases, yes, it does, because if you are working on a project and founding a startup, then it means that you believe in that, so hard, like maybe more than anything you've ever believed in. And I think that if you start that, then it's very difficult to actually stop at any moment. I mean, a number of people would even, wake up at night thinking about their next move, or get really quite stressed, you know, if you're passing a difficult phase or going to the next level with your startup. If you're the one creating the company, then yeah, I think that it can be consuming. Yeah.
So the question was, what is work? For me,
What is
the
work,
definition
yeah,
of
for
work?
you?
Well, yeah. Of course, it can consume me, but like work is just things that I've committed to push through success. So in Infogram, it's building perfect, amazing digital product, which helps people to communicate ideas and visuals. At Riga Tech Girls is creating awesome events that will get more women into tech. At home, it's just to get my family as organization happy, healthy, and just have fun times. So different things have different goals, and I'm trying to push them through success, and there are different obstacles, so different formats of how I do it. But it's, yeah, some kind of a goal and my best intentions to do it right. It can consume, but it's part of me, that's life. That's.
Try to imagine if you had all the money in the world and all the time in the world, all the resources at your disposal. Would you spend your life on the couch watching something? So that's something. Would you call it work or not?
It would be best if that something would be your work, because I think would be the most fulfilling. And I think all the self-help books say that this should be something you do. But if you would ask me about what is work, this is a really good question, because everybody comes up with a different answer. There is actually a formula in physics what is work. It's something movement times power or something like this. This is work. And then in agricultural sense, in the old times, this was the work you were doing, pulling the plow somehow. But today, most of us, I would say, are working with heads or fingers somehow. Doesn't seem like work in the traditional sense, but I would define work for myself that this is the activity or a directed activity which has the greatest impact on my income. I would define it somehow like that. So like 80 or 90% through this activity is my income. And why you should focus on something so heavily or that much of your time is that when focusing on something, you get really good at something. So for me, work used to be like for 17 years, programming and software engineering and computer science is still today sometimes, although I've stopped programming. Now I'm writing emails. But this is still, I'm really good at writing emails now. During last 3 years, I've really got like good prioritizing tasks and this fragmented time stuff. But my point is that this is my work and everything else is hobbies. This now, right now, being on the stage is actually quite hard work in a sense that I'm feeling tired after these 2 days. I don't have this energy anymore, but I don't consider this work. This is my hobby. Yeah, and then how to not consume, that you just have to know that there is some point you just need to stay home for a day or need to get off and away from the office for a week. And then there are some certain rules I've put on myself, I try to follow, which create this separation that I just know that I switch off this main effort I'm doing like every weekday. And weekends are for families and so on and so. So this helps me not to consume, because as I mentioned, I have burned through 4 times. Every time it results on anything else. Last time it resulted in divorce. So not recommending.
Okay.
But I mean, let's not make the mistake that thinking that burnouts only happen to people who work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for years on end. This also happens to regular people who have a 9-to-5 job. It also depends on what you do at work and who you work with. You might get bullied at work. You might be very stressed during those 9-to-5, even if you completely switch off afterwards. But it has a long-term effect, right? So I've seen burnout happen with people who have a very regular job, don't give a shit about the company that they work for, just go to work like any regular Joe, but it builds up, and at some point they just crack, and it happens across age groups, across professions, across regions, happens everywhere. So it's not necessarily tied to all these, entrepreneur, let's work as hard and as much as we can. It can happen to anyone.
I agree with that. I think it could happen also if you don't feel that what you're doing is, if you don't find any meaning in what you're up to, I think there's a strong link, because if what drives you is what you're passionate about, or what something you really believe in, I think that you can really move mountains, really, literally. But if you don't feel at ease, or if you're bullied, or feel that you're working for a cause you don't, a company that doesn't really do good, for me anyway, that would have an impact, definitely, more than working long hours.
So basically what you're saying is that one suggestion is that work, you have to like it. You have to love it, or the people you're working together, you have to love it, really. And then this keeps you healthy as well, and happy. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, there is a question there.
Hi. We founders especially are bad at this work-life balance, and we are workaholics and working long hours. Then we are growing our team, and then we are starting quite often showing bad example to our new team members. And so any suggestions how do you avoid spoiling your new team members becoming workaholics and damaging their lives? Or you just, when growing your team, are looking for people exactly like you as workaholics and working long hours?
I mean, come on, we've all seen people who only work 4 hours a day and are a lot more productive than people who work 20 hours a day. Depends on what you do during those hours. It doesn't really depend on the number of hours that you work, in my opinion. So you need to stimulate people to, be at ease at what they work, have a good culture, create values, and show that you have values, and live up to these values yourself, and just be an example to everyone else. But
the problem is when the founders are working long hours, then some other team members might think that they are expected to do that as well, and then probably you don't want to do that, and probably it's okay for others to work just 8 hours per day, but then when they are how to reduce this guilt that they are working and thinking that they are not working as long as expected. Any comments about that?
Communicate. Tell people that they don't have to work as hard as you do.
Tell them that I'm the fucking freak here, and I own the company. That's why I'm working long. You can please do go home.
So in Infogram case, when there were 3 of us, we never had these 24 hours working hours. But one cultural thing that I see still repeating when companies 10 times bigger is that we always had flexible working hours. You don't feel your co-founder to be at work all the time, because he comes in the middle of the day, and then he works until midnight, and then the other co-founder always came at 7 a.m. and at 4 he was gone. So this flexible working hour mood, just get your shit done, and whatever, when you come, it doesn't matter. So yeah, it's still on.
Any other questions? Yes, there is one.
So what do you guys think, where is this myth of workaholism coming? Is this coming from pushy VCs, or where is it, or what the root cause of this workaholism myth that's such a characteristic of the startup world?
Basically, were you asking about the nature of workaholism? Where does it come from? Is it push from VCs,
exactly.
or is it internal drive? What do you think, guys? Where does your workaholism come from?
When I burned down the example that I shared, I think I was trying to prove myself that on maternity leave you can do shitloads of things. It doesn't matter that you don't get paid job and you're dressed in a bathing suit. But that was my problem. But in the early days of startup, you've put everything you had on a game to succeed. You probably are burning all your savings, or that's I think keeps you running. It's not VC. You do it for yourself. You do it for your success, and everything is on a game. Everything you had.
Yeah, when I started out, I worked in a corporate company, so a big event company, and I know that for me it had an impact to see, and it for all of us actually had an impact to see when the first one was leaving or not, and you could potentially feel guilty if you were leaving earlier, and it didn't mean that you were less efficient or not when you think of it, but there's this kind of thing, if you don't communicate with your boss or the teams, to create a kind of trustworthy atmosphere where actually it's seen as something good to have a other like hobbies and be with your family and be there for these important. If it's not considered important to have like an outside life, then I think that the lack of communication can result in some pressure that you put on yourself. I think that people probably this culture came from non-communication on the subject. It's like I'm not going to leave before a certain hour, even if I'm not feeling efficient, I'm tired, and I'm really not doing much in the office. So.
Yeah, I'm not a workaholic. In fact, I'm quite lazy. Always have been. And it's funny, but it's a bit of a cliche. Like, if you love what you do, you don't call it work, and it doesn't feel like work. And it's true. Like, I used to work in marketing, I was in consulting, blah, blah, blah. And at some point, I said, I want to be a professional blogger. And I thought it was going to be easy. But then I joined TechCrunch in 2008, and I spent 4 years working my ass off. Literally, never worked as hard. And, it didn't feel like work at all. It was so much fun. Learned so much just by sitting in my kitchen writing about startups, and it was the best thing ever. But I've never worked as hard as a professional blogger when everyone considers like you're in your pajamas working from your couch. Than the 10 years that came before that. Never worked as hard.
And with that note, I think we're going to call it a day because we are like 2 minutes over the scheduled time. So
apologies.
Thank you guys for coming. Give them a big applause.